So, how did we get to this Untitled gathering place? It was a long process, 2 years to be exact.
We wanted to create a space where Metro students could just gather and just have a nice place to just chill and hang out and kind of like a community, you know, bring our Metro community together.
Well, the real goals of the project, at least in my mind, have always been to create a space that's not necessarily about us, the creators, but about the people who will use the space. Because the fact of the matter is, in less than a month, those of us who created it, who have been with the project from the beginning, are going to be gone. And so students 4 years from now won't even know that we ever came here. So it's not really about us, it's more about creating a space that lasts longer than us and is a space for all students, no matter who they may be.
At times it seemed like we were working at cross purposes. We wanted to encourage students to form ideas and take positions, but we also wanted them to learn to develop the ability to listen to others, to respect the ideas of their colleagues, to learn when to compromise and when to seek new solutions to problems.
I expected the sculpture, in all honesty, to look like a bunch of preschoolers did it, in all honesty. I had geared myself that it was going to be shiny and metallic-y and really over the top. And I was pleasantly surprised as the maturity of as my entire class, and myself included, kind of developed from our first year. Those first ideas were presented into the finished product is very, very different. And I have to say I'm really kind of proud of all of us for kind of coming to this kind of more mature, more tasteful piece that really is going to stand and become important to all of us, and we all have our own ideas in it.
I think that it can be very difficult for people to collaborate because, like with this project, many people had different ideas, different themes, different sayings, different ways to express it, and it kind of causes like commotion, especially when like people don't get their way, so it can be really difficult.
I think the most difficult part for all of us was trying to essentially to get along and create these ideas. We were all coming to this project with very different ideas about art, about Metro, and about how those two come together. And I think that was really difficult for all of us to kind of compromise a little bit and kind of pick, you know, what elements are really important for everyone else. Sometimes
the idea that you have has to be altered by other people, and so you kind of like have to develop a little bit of a bark on yourself to say, well, I guess that I can adjust what I initially had planned or what I initially saw, and I can accept this other person's idea, and not only accept it, I can go along with it and actually get enthused about it.
There's a fine line you walk between empowering students to make decisions, and sometimes mistakes, and modeling behaviors you want them to acquire. Collaboration takes work, but it's an important life lesson, and it's worth the investment.
It was really after, I think, meeting with the architect who spoke to the kids about permits and that sort of thing, when we started to want to build above ground and have a roof and have a structure. It was always clear that the students wanted to build a meeting place for people, their fellow students, to be able to gather and discuss or have lunch. They're allowed to leave campus for lunch. They wanted a spot. And so once they met with the architect, and certain things had to change because of the reality of building in a public space, I think that their reaction to those changes was that it wasn't reflective anymore of their vision. So we started to ask the questions, what is the key element to these ideas that we are not willing to give up on? And that was how we started to talk about it being a meeting place.
So this sculpture kind of just says, we were here. And I thought, how better to say that than to leave our actual butt prints in the stones. And so after listening to everybody and collecting the themes in my head, I suggested that idea. And what I wanted was a really picturesque Stonehenge type thing with all the 12 or so individual stones, because we're individuals. But we decided to go a few different ways on that. Rather than individuals, we decided to do blocks with two separate 2 and 3 separate bum shapes in them.
I know a lot of people didn't want to use this area, and I was like one of the main people who wanted to use the area, but other people were like, no one's gonna go back there. No one's gonna even, we're gonna build something and people aren't even gonna use it. But I was adamant, and I was like, well, if we put something back here, people will come back here more often and it will be a usable space.
For some people who didn't start out on the project at all and then came in once we decided we had to completely change ideas, and once we changed ideas, there were some people who again filtered out, and it's always seemed to be a constant change of personnel and enthusiasm, which was really interesting to see.
I learned that building a project like this is not easy. Like, I always assumed that, you know, designers and stuff had like easy jobs and could do this, you know, it was fun, but it wasn't easy.
I think what I learned is that you gotta take what people give you. Because every single person who was ever on this project, and even some who were only in the first beginning idea stages, everyone contributed something.
This collaboration with the Contemporary was important because it gave the kids an opportunity to work with each other and to understand all the complexities of the process. Even though some people didn't really feel like working together, we still had an opportunity to work together and to collaborate on a process.
The IB art students from the class of 2009 leave with future Metro students this untitled gathering place. But they come away with the experience with a new set of problem-solving skills and a deeper understanding of themselves.
Well, when the students gather around the sculpture, I'd like for them to reflect on the 4 years of their life that comprises, you know, your high school experience. I'd like for them to remember that these 4 years, it's not the final frontier, I suppose, of who you are. Like, it's not the end-all, be-all of your personality and who you're going to develop into. And that I think a lot of times, of course, we make high school a bigger deal than it actually is. And it's just as much a stepping stone to the next portion of your life, if it's the workforce or college or maybe backpacking through West Africa. At high school, I think it's more of a place where you learn how to learn a little bit.
Hopefully this piece will be a community and create the kind of foundation for one and continue, because students don't really have their own space here at Metro. And I'm hoping that when students are here, they feel that they are in a comfortable space, a loving space that was created with them in mind, and that it'll continue to share that message.